What's up everyone, it's Endymion, and for the past week I've been playing through the latest Souls-like to hit the market and really diving deep into its many systems. As of the making of this video, I've beaten the full game, got a few endings, and beaten every boss and have almost every collectible. I'm still missing some and I can't for the life of me find them, but anyway, you're here because you want to know if Thymesia is worth jumping into. Well, let's get started, and thanks to Team 17 and Overborder Studio for the early review code, and I played the PlayStation 5 version as well. Also, don't worry about spoilers. Now, let's begin. Thymesia has you playing as Corvus, who's this plague doctor looking dude who's on a quest to save the Hermes kingdom from ruin. The entire game takes place within Corvus's memories as you dive into these and try to piece together what happened and why the plague exists in the first place. If Thymesia had a tagline, it would be quality over quantity in my opinion. The game has 13 memories to dive into, some of these being full levels while other memories being singular boss fights. The easiest comparison would be that Thymesia feels like a blend between Bloodborne and Sekiro. The game's world feels like Bloodborne's with crazy villagers and ruined warriors stalking the world. It also feels like Sekiro in that Thymesia's gameplay is very fast and has quite a high skill ceiling if your reaction time is good enough. You can block basically every single move using Corvus's parry, but I would say the parry in this game is very precise. Whereas in Sekiro, you could block moves and build up posture damage, in Thymesia, the parrying is more punishing, but you can spend points to create very specific styles of play, which helps fix this. So let's talk talents and how they influence your playstyle. Your talents are separated into various categories. Each skill path allows you to customize Corvus into very specific builds, but the trade-off being that you can only specialize in one path per skill type. A good example of this would be the Deflect talent tree. You can see here on the left that after selecting Deflect level 2, it splits into two paths. So you can only pick one of these, however don't worry because Thymesia allows you to respec at any time from the same menu. It doesn't even cost anything, you simply hit square on PS5 and boom, you can reset just that single tree. So trying things out and seeing what works for you and doesn't is really flexible, which is great. The other talent trees are pretty vast too, ranging from Saber, Deflect, Dodge, Claw, Feather, and finally Strategies. You have 25 talent skills to spend on whatever you want. After level 25, you can only increase one of your 3 core stats, but in my experience, 25 talent points was more than enough to make my Corvus into an absolute monster. The combat of Thymesia is where the game excels, as like Sekiro or Bloodborne, you have to make split-second decisions that could mean the difference between life or death. While you can't change your main melee weapon, the Saber, you can customize your secondary tool with plague weapons. And these are badass, so let's talk about them. Plague weapons vary wildly, and honestly, this is where Thymesia's combat separates itself from other Souls-likes. Think of each of these plague weapons kind of like Sekiro's shinobi tools, except you can use them way more often. You have plague weapons ranging from spears, death scythes, dual blades, axes, greatswords, shields, and even weird stuff like coating your weapon in blood by sacrificing your own HP to increase damage. There's 21 plague weapons in total, and quite a few are exclusively obtained by killing bosses and weaponizing the unique plagues within them. Not only that, but when you kill enemies that use certain weapon types, you'll gain skill shards, and once you have enough, you can upgrade these plague weapons down a singular path which adds a new combo to their attacks as well as other effects. For example, the spear stabs enemies 3 times when you use it. You can even see here on the right how much damage percent-wise it'll do, but once you upgrade it, the spear can now do a spinning attack, which effectively makes it into a crowd-controlling weapon. Another amazing plague weapon is the greatsword, which I found to be the perfect counter to the stronger enemies in the game. You can just Street Fighter Turbo 2 Shoryuken dudes into the air with an uppercut, sending their asses flying. This opens them up to being sliced and diced, and once upgraded, you can do a shorter horizontal slash that does 420% attack damage. Nice. But yeah, the plague weapons are where it's at, and if you specialize yourself in your talent trees to gain energy when you attack or kill enemies, you can effectively use plague weapons constantly, which is super fun and really dynamic. Also, while we're on the talk about combat, you may be noticing that the enemy's health turns white and then green. White health is reduced by attacking, but the green health is called wounding, and this will disappear if you don't bring that meter down so enemies can regenerate. But that's where your badass Alex Mercer prototype-like claw hand comes in, and when you use this heavy attack, you can slash the wounds of an enemy and permanently reduce their maximum HP. It's really cool. Oh yeah, right, I forgot. There's also bosses in the game. Surprisingly, there's quite a few bosses here that are really good. Of course, I won't show the majority of them, but there's 8 in total. Weirdly enough though, the first true boss you fight is Odur, a circus ringleader psycho who is weirdly tough for a first boss. And to be honest, outside of some later fights, none of them really compare to Odur in terms of difficulty. But then again, maybe I was just struggling because I suck sometimes, so your experience may vary. Earlier I said Thymesia is quality over quantity, and this is true in really every ounce of this game. Odur really is a standout boss in this game, and he feels like he would fit right in with games like Bloodborne or Sekiro with how he attacks and operates. Some bosses even have secondary phases as well as ultimate attacks that can turn a fight from going good to you being dead pretty fast. Another boss I want to quickly talk about is the Hanged Queen. She's the second main boss. This fight, while easy, was really fun as well. Her mechanics are simple, and to be honest, the difference between a boss like her and Odur in terms of difficulty is light years. That being said, I dug how many of the bosses feel like they could be in a Soulsborne game, and I wouldn't really question it. And my favorite boss, I can't show you due to spoilers, but all I'll say is they're not only very difficult, but extremely fun to fight too. They are optional though, but I'll leave that discovery for you to experience. On the flip side, I do have problems with Thymesia, so let's go over those as well. There's unfortunately only 3 actual big distinct levels in the game, although with side quests you can unlock some new areas to certain levels, but I would temper your expectations because Thymesia is not a massive game. It's very honed in and to the point. I beat the game in about 8 hours, but with side quests and such that could exceed 10 to 12 hours or more. After this point, you can farm enemies for resources to increase stuff like your plague weapons, skill trees, and ingredients for your potions, which is a whole other system that is pretty in-depth. I actually really dig the potion crafting in this game because you can customize your potions into specific roles to help you. I kinda hope other games take notice of this. That being said, this is an indie game, and for what it is offering, Thymesia is really impressive, all things considered. And I should also note that the game never crashed once for me, but I did get some lag spikes here and there, but these only lasted for maybe 2 to 3 seconds at a time before going away. Thankfully, these lag spikes never happened during boss battles either. But it is impressive that Thymesia never crashed, considering how many games launch busted these days. It's a breath of fresh air that the developers actually took their time to make the game work, which is great. Also, as of the making of this video, from what I can see, there doesn't seem to be a New Game Plus feature that I'm aware of, which is disappointing, and I would have liked to have more than 3 levels in the game. However, like I said, one of these 3 levels has about 2 sub-levels to them with their own unique level layouts. So I guess you could say 5 levels in total, but only 3 of these are required in order to beat the game. And although you can alter your parrying mechanic to make it more forgiving, I kinda wish Thymesia leaned more into Sekiro's version of the mechanic, as there were many times where I thought I would do a parry correctly only to get punished, but maybe I just suck. Also, bizarrely, the game has no actual voice acting besides some grunts or screams some enemies do, which is weird because some of the bosses talk during their fights, but you're so focused on not dying that I rarely, if ever, actually read what they were even saying. And I would have liked to have had more enemy variety in the actual levels as well. Besides weird smelly villagers with knives or spears, you're basically fighting plague-ridden knights or other soldier types with axes, spears, swords, and so on. There's also a few other enemy types, but they are all humanoid in design as well. Unfortunately, there's no animals or non-human enemies really. The bosses, however, are another story, but again, no spoilers for that, so I won't show them. There's also some weird audio spikes here and there. One optional boss in particular screams really loud upon initiating the fight, which was not very cash money on my ears. And the final boss fight is pretty disappointing, and the music in the final fight for me kept looping weird and it was really distracting, but I'm sure they'll patch that. But anyway, let's get to the verdict. Is Thymesia worth your time and money? If you enjoy Soulsborne games like Bloodborne or Sekiro and are looking for your next test of skill, I would say absolutely yes. It's a thrilling game full of cool customization mechanics, some solid boss designs, and a very fun combat system. But if you're looking for a game that's full of content and will last you hundreds of hours, just know this isn't it. Thymesia is quality over quantity for the most part, and if you're cool with that, then I'd say it's worth the purchase. I guess if you want a numbered score, which I think is pretty dumb, but whatever, then I'd give the game a solid 7.5 out of 10. But don't let numbers dictate whether you enjoy something or not. Make decisions for yourself and don't become a slave to sites like Metacritic. Thymesia is launching on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, and PC, and if you want more on Thymesia, I'll be doing a tips and tricks video as well as my own personal ranking of the bosses from easiest to hardest in the coming days. Alright, I think I've talked enough. I hope you enjoyed my first actual real review that I've done on this channel. Now if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go scream at the sun because it's way too hot outside. How can people even like hot weather? Fall is so much better. Anyway, I'm done talking. Subscribe and share to spread the word, and thanks to my patrons for their undying support. I'm Endymion, and I'll see you in the next one.